Four unknown armed jets were flying toward Denver when emergency erupted. Only one Air Force pilot in the country could stop them, and she was a passenger sitting on Flight 237, Seat 14C, eating pretzels. Minutes later, the Air Force gave one order: get her in that F-22. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in October. The airport in Norfolk, Virginia was busy but calm, the kind of calm you only get on a normal travel day when nothing in the world feels urgent. Flight 237, a Delta plane, was getting ready to leave for Seattle. It was full, almost every seat taken. Families going on trips. Business people typing on laptops. Students going home. Nobody in that airport was thinking about anything except getting to their gate on time. Among all those passengers, there was one woman nobody noticed. She was in her early 30s. She had brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans, a plain blue t-shirt, and old white sneakers. She carried one small bag. She did not look important. She did not look tired or nervous or excited. She looked like someone going to visit family, or maybe going on a normal work trip. She found her seat, 14C, put her bag under the seat in front of her, and sat down quietly. She put in her earphones and closed her eyes before the plane even started moving. Nobody looked at her twice. Nobody would have guessed anything about her. She looked like any other tired traveler on any other Tuesday morning flight. That was exactly how she wanted it. Her name on the ticket said Sarah Blake. If you asked her what she did for work, she would say she worked in logistics. That was true, in a way, but it was not the real answer. The real answer was something almost nobody outside a small circle of people knew. Sarah Blake was a major in the United States Air Force. She was one of the best fighter pilots in the entire country. She flew the F-22 Raptor, the most advanced fighter jet ever built. Very few pilots in the whole military were trained to fly it. To even be considered, a pilot had to be one of the best in their class, one of the most disciplined, one of the calmest under pressure. Sarah was all of these things. She had joined the Air Force at 22. She finished first in her flight school class. Instructors said she flew like she had been born in the cockpit, always calm, always thinking 2 steps ahead. Over the years she flew real missions, not just practice ones. She had chased unknown aircraft near the coast. She had escorted planes that got too close to restricted areas. She had done things that were never written about in any newspaper because almost nobody was allowed to know. During training exercises, other pilots said flying against her felt impossible. She never went where you expected. She never made the mistake you were waiting for. One senior officer said flying against her felt like fighting a ghost. That word stuck. From that day, her call sign was Ghost. But right now, on this Tuesday morning, none of that mattered. Sarah had not had real time off in almost a year. She had asked for leave to visit her parents, who she had not seen properly in months. This was supposed to be a simple trip. No uniform. No orders. No responsibility. Just a woman going home to see her mom and dad. She was tired in the way that only comes after months of hard work, and she was looking forward to doing absolutely nothing for a few days. She was almost asleep when her phone buzzed. It was not a normal phone. It was a special government phone that could receive messages anywhere, even in the sky. She opened her eyes and looked at the screen. The message was short. Emergency alert. Possible national security threat. Stand by. Do not respond yet. Sarah sat up straight. Any sleepiness in her body disappeared in 1 second. Her training took over automatically. She looked around the cabin. Everyone else looked completely normal. A man across from her was watching a movie. A woman next to her was reading a book. Nobody knew anything was wrong. A second message came in. Unknown aircraft detected near the coast. Not responding to any radio calls. Heading toward a restricted military zone. All nearby fighter jets are being sent to respond. Sarah's heart started beating faster. She understood what this meant. Something dangerous was happening, and the Air Force was trying to find every available pilot who could help. A third message arrived only seconds later. Major Blake, this is not a drill. You are the closest qualified pilot to Naval Air Station Oceana. A jet is being prepared for you right now. You are being called back to duty immediately. Reply if you understand. Sarah typed back 2 words. Understood. Ready. She stood up from her seat calmly, like she was simply going to the bathroom. She walked to the front of the plane where a flight attendant was standing near the curtain. The flight attendant, a young man, smiled at her the way flight attendants smile at everyone. Can I help you? He asked. I need to speak to the captain right now, Sarah said quietly. This is extremely important. The flight attendant looked a little confused. I'm sorry, but I can't let a passenger into the cockpit unless there's a real reason. Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out her military identification card. She held it up so he could read it clearly. His face changed immediately. Major Sarah Blake, United States Air Force, she said. I need to speak to your captain right now. This cannot wait. Yes, ma'am. Right this way. Inside the cockpit, the captain, a man in his 50s with many years of flying experience, turned around when the door opened. He looked surprised to see a passenger standing there. Captain, Sarah said, holding up her ID again, my name is Major Sarah Blake. I am an Air Force fighter pilot. I have just received emergency orders. There is a security situation happening right now near the coast, and I need to be at Naval Air Station Oceana as fast as possible. I need this plane to divert there immediately. The captain stared at her for a moment. Before he could say anything, Sarah's phone rang. She answered it, listened for a second, and then held it out to him. This is Colonel Reyes from Air Combat Command. He needs to speak with you personally. The captain took the phone slowly. The voice on the other end was calm but firm. Captain, this is Colonel Reyes. I understand this is unusual, but I need you to trust me. You have a highly trained Air Force pilot on your aircraft who has been called back to active duty for a serious situation. I am asking you to divert Flight 237 to Oceana immediately. Your airline will be fully protected, and your passengers will be taken care of. But I need you to begin the diversion right now. The captain was quiet for a moment. Then he said, understood. Diverting now. He handed the phone back to Sarah, turned to his first officer, and began talking to air traffic control. A few minutes later, the captain spoke to the passengers over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We are diverting to a nearby airfield due to an emergency situation. I want to be clear that there is nothing wrong with the aircraft. This is not a mechanical issue. We should be on the ground in about 15 minutes. Please remain calm and stay seated. The cabin filled with noise immediately. People whispered to each other. Someone asked loudly if the plane was being hijacked. A child started crying near the back. The flight attendants moved through the aisle trying to calm everyone, but it was hard because nobody really understood what was happening. Sarah walked back into the main cabin. She did not rush. She stood near the front where most people could see her and spoke loudly enough for her voice to carry. Everyone, please listen for a moment. My name is Sarah Blake. I am an active duty officer in the United States Air Force. There is no danger to this plane. Nothing is wrong with it. I have been called back to duty because of a security situation, and this plane is landing at a military base so I can get to my jet quickly. You are all completely safe. This will only take a short time, and then this flight will continue to its destination. A man near the middle of the plane stood up and said loudly, You expect us to believe you're a fighter pilot? You're wearing jeans and sneakers. Sarah did not have time to answer him. At that exact moment, a deep roaring sound shook the plane. Passengers gasped. People on the left side turned to look out the windows. What they saw made the whole cabin go silent. Flying right beside the plane, close enough to see every detail, were two F-22 fighter jets. Their gray, sharp-edged bodies caught the morning light. Everyone in the cabin stared, completely speechless. Completely speechless. Then one of the jets rolled sideways in a slow, smooth circle before returning to its position. It was a signal. In military flying, this move is done to show respect to another pilot. It meant that whoever was flying that jet knew Sarah was on this plane, and was saluting her before she even reached the base. The man who had questioned her sat back down without another word. The landing at Oceana was fast. As soon as the plane stopped, military vehicles were already waiting. Two officers ran toward the aircraft as the door opened. "Major Blake, your jet is fueled and ready. We need you in the air in 5 minutes." "I'll be in the air in 4, Sarah said. She changed into a flight suit inside a moving vehicle, pulling it over her jeans and t-shirt. Someone handed her a helmet. Someone else gave her a printed card with information about the threat. She read it quickly. For unidentified aircraft, heading toward the coastline, not responding to radio calls, believed to be carrying weapons. Her jet, the F-22, was already running when she reached it. She climbed in fast, connected her gear, and ran through her checklist at record speed. Within minutes, she was cleared for takeoff. "Ghost, you are cleared for immediate departure. Threat aircraft are 100 miles out, heading toward the coast. Rules of engagement, identify first. Weapons only with direct authorization." "Ghost copies," Sarah said, pushing the throttle forward. The jet shot down the runway and lifted off at a steep angle, faster than anything Sarah's fellow passengers had ever seen a plane move. Within minutes she was flying above the clouds at incredible speed, her radar picking up 4 unknown aircraft ahead. She lowered her altitude carefully, using her jet's advanced stealth technology to get close without being seen. As she came near, she saw them clearly. 4 drones, unmanned, flying in a tight formation, carrying missiles under their wings. No markings. No identification. Just a straight, silent, deadly path toward the coast. "Ghost has visual," she reported. 4 unmanned aircraft, armed with missiles, no identification markings. They are on a direct path toward the coastline. There was a pause on the radio. Then a new voice came through, calm and serious. "Ghost, this is Colonel Reyes. You are authorized weapons free. Eliminate the threat now. Copy. Engaging." Sarah locked onto the first drone and fired. A missile shot from her jet and found its target in seconds. A bright flash lit up the sky, and the first drone was gone. "Splash 1, she said, already turning toward the second target. She fired again. Another explosion. Splash 2. The remaining 2 drones tried to change direction, but their movements were slow and predictable compared to Sarah's jet. She adjusted her path smoothly and fired twice more. Splash 3. Splash 4. All threats eliminated. There was a short silence on the radio, and then Colonel Reyes spoke again. "Excellent work, Ghost. The coast is clear. Come home." Sarah turned her jet back toward the base, her body finally relaxing now that the danger had passed. The whole event, from the first missile to the last, had taken less than 2 minutes. When she landed back at Oceana, Colonel Reyes was standing on the runway waiting for her. He saluted her as she stepped down from the jet, still in her flight suit. "Major Blake," he said, "those drones were minutes away from reaching a populated coastal area. What you did today may have saved a lot of lives. You went from a passenger seat to an armed jet faster than most pilots could react on a normal training day." "Just doing my job, sir," Sarah replied simply. Hours later, Sarah walked back onto Flight 237, which had waited at the base to continue its journey. As she stepped through the door, every single passenger stood up and began clapping. The sound filled the whole cabin. The man who had doubted her earlier looked down, embarrassed, then stood and clapped along with everyone else. As Sarah passed his row, he spoke quietly. "I'm sorry for what I said earlier. I had no idea. Thank you for what you did." Sarah smiled gently. "You didn't need to know. That's kind of the point." She sat back down in her seat, put her earphones in, and closed her eyes as the plane took off again for Seattle. She was tired, more tired than she had been in a long time, but it was a good kind of tired. The kind that comes after doing something that truly mattered. Weeks later, when the story became public, reporters wanted to know how she felt in that moment, going from an ordinary passenger to a fighter pilot in the sky within minutes. Sarah gave one short interview. She said, "There are people around you every single day who are trained for moments like this. You never notice them. They sit next to you on flights. They stand behind you in line at the store. They look completely normal, and that's exactly how it should be. We don't do this job for attention. We do it because someone has to be ready, quietly, all the time." When asked if she was scared during the mission, she paused for a moment before answering. "Yes. I was scared. Anyone who says they aren't scared in a moment like that is either lying or has never really been in one. But fear doesn't stop you. Training does. Fear and training exist together. And when it matters most, training wins." She finished her leave a few days later, spending quiet time with her family, far away from cameras and headlines. She did not think of herself as a hero. To her, she had simply done her job, the same job she had trained for since she was 22 years old. And somewhere, high above the clouds, in a jet most people will never fly, she was ready to do it again.